talk about mistakes we've made because it's good to know. It's encouraging for us at home that are trying things for the first time. So things happen well in renos and things happen not so well. So Leanne, I'm going to start with you. The biggest mistake you've made when it comes to a reno or even a DIY. I'll throw that in there.
My biggest problem in general is having eyes bigger than my stomach, in the sense that I usually want to achieve a lot in a very small amount of time, and then it becomes what can go off the list, and I'm not very reasonable. I don't usually want anything to leave the list.
Got it.
So it's always, and then I haven't even talked about dollars, like when you have a budget to work with, that's usually the biggest challenge. So for me, it's less about mistakes versus my unwillingness to conform to the reality of what the project may be. Yes.
So can you think of one situation in particular where you were just like, there's just no way this is going to happen? And what do you do about it? Do you just push through and let the reno drag on?
Well, there's been a couple hard decisions where it becomes a trade-off. It's one or the other. So and you have to look at it as the most bang for your buck. Yeah. So in one instance, I was really had my heart set on changing a layout of a kitchen, which would have required a wall coming down. Given the timeline we had, it wasn't possible. I was still adamant, and I kept putting holes in the wall with a hammer in the hopes that the contractor would miraculously take it down, and then the holes kept getting patched. So at the end of the day, that wall coming down would have meant that the floors wouldn't have been able to be refinished, which was ultimately, in the case of the time we had and the budget we had, that was the bigger bang that we needed for our buck.
Fair enough. Danielle, your biggest reno mistake?
Well, it's exactly like that. It's taking on more than I should, and then nothing gets done right. So because I've done it before where I'm like, okay, well, we'll just tile the master bath in my own house with tiles that I hated. And then like 3 years later, you're like, oh, I should have just waited. So I always try to encourage my clients to do that. And then the other mistake I made was asking my husband, who I already said is really not handy, and he hates doing anything like that, to paint our bathroom, our master bedroom this really bold dark color. And it was such a mistake that I had him paint it white the next day. That was a really big mistake. So
you hated it.
You know, our walls were really imperfect. We had some bad trim work, and it accentuated that.
Right.
So
you're like, this has got to go immediately. He's like, really? So you're not off the hook yet. Okay. So we're talking about reno mistakes. What's your biggest?
You know, my biggest is always not following my own advice.
Okay.
I tell people, try out your colors in big samples.
Oh, right.
This isn't a paint story that I will tell you about. I've had a few of those, but I always try paint samples out. But I was picking a countertop when we were renovating our kitchen, and it was just the countertop at the back, and it was laminate. I spent all my money on the rest of the kitchen, so this back part was laminate. I picked from the little tiny sample, and the countertop came in, and I just had my son, like I was a mess. I'm doing renovations, everything's the countertop comes in, and I'm looking, I'm like, that's horrible, get it out of here. And my husband's like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, it's no, let's just, don't even put it down. It's wrong. It's horrible. Back to the drawing board. I thought, I'm never going to just look at that little sample, because you can't see it in the space.
Oh, it's all about contact. For a countertop, that is a big amount of space, right? So if there's one little pattern you see in the little sample, and then all of a sudden it's
cute slate sample, but it came in, it was more terracotta. It was orange. I'm like, this isn't working. Get rid of it. So luckily, a friend of ours who was helping us with the reno, he was doing his basement, so he took it right into his truck, and he got to use it, so it wasn't a waste. And then I picked a nice blacky gray one. It was very simple.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I often will listen to all of the great pearls of wisdom you guys give, and then I go home, I do the wrong thing. So I painted my whole living room, and then I bought the furniture, and then I got the furniture, and they were like, you got to repaint the living room. I'm like, I knew that because I learned that on City Line. I had to do it wrong because that's me. I have to do it the hard way.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Right? Thank you for the amazing advice today. It's so nice to talk renovations and DIYs with some amazingly talented, strong women.